Hi. I know that active learning wasn't one of the optimal conditions of language acquisition that we learned about in the textbook, but I believe it should be. I think that being a passive learner elongates the learning process, whereas active learning can shorten the process and makes it much more fun. Active learning obviously focuses upon the word active. In active learning, the students must do something. Active learning tends to be engaging learning, meaning that it keeps the mind engrossed in the learning. Active learning, or engaged learning, has to be student-centered learning. All right? The teacher is no longer the focus of the classroom. So active learning or engaged learning is student-centered learning. The teacher is no longer the focus of the classroom. The teacher is no longer the expert pouring knowledge into the heads of the students. So that's an extremely difficult concept for many instructors and future instructors to grasp. Instead of being the expert, the teacher becomes the classroom manager who introduces ideas or skills, arranges the learning environment or task, and then allows the students to work with others to discover the lesson. Often in these situations, students learn more than just the lesson the instructor intended, but that's all right. If they learn different lessons during the task, great, as long as they learn the main points that you want them to learn. If they learn more, that's great. That's part of active learning. That's part of engaged learning, the discovery process. Active learning means that students are not passive receptors in the classroom. Instead, they are doing and thinking during instructional activities. Also, the students carry the responsibility for learning. All right? So did you get that? The students carry the responsibility for learning. It's not my responsibility as a teacher to make sure that they learn. It's the student's responsibility in active learning. It's their responsibility to learn. And as the teacher, I provide or facilitate their learning. In other words, I provide the leadership for their learning. Now that is by no means an excuse to do a horrible job. You can't say, oh, well, the students are supposed to learn this. It was their job. No, but it's important that you help the students understand that they can't just sit in class and study a book to be able to pass. They have to take responsibility for their learning. They have to get involved in their own learning. Engaged learning is characterized by the fact that students are excited about their learning and are having fun, which creates intrinsic motivation for them to continue learning. Usually this requires tasks that are challenging to them rather than merely filling in blanks. So if your students are bored or if you think an activity is boring, then your students are going to think that activity is boring. So how can you do something that will make that activity more engaging, to make it an actual activity, active activity? Also, assessment, by the way, is part of active engaged learning. It's hard to believe, but it is. Assessment is no longer just a test at the end, checking how much information they remember. You're still going to have those tests, that's all right. But the majority of the assessment should be ongoing throughout the task with multiple points of feedback from the teacher, classmates, and themselves. Employers want people who are constantly self-evaluating themselves and figuring out ways to improve. In my opinion, it's our goal as instructors to get students so interested in accomplishing a task that they're more concerned about effectively learning the skills involved than they are about getting a particular grade. That's not easily done. And for those of you who are elementary school teachers, I don't know if it can be done for 6 hours a day. But maybe there are certain times during the day that students can be really engaged and they can care more about the skills that they're learning than about their grade. It's one of the reasons I allow students to redo the assignments. The student may be doing it to improve their grade, but I'm allowing it because I know that the repetition will solidify the needed skills they need to learn. Throughout this course, we'll see how technology can serve as a tool to engage students in learning in meaningful and fun and active ways.